What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, bringing home the bacon MLB DFS video. It is Tuesday. We have a full 15-game slate on the day, but we can only play 14 of those games. So we're going to cover that. We're going to go through everything. If you've never been here before, welcome. Huge shout out to everyone that checked out yesterday's video. Big numbers on that video. That was awesome. Big shout out to everybody who has sent in donations or tips, whatever you want to call them. Down below in the description of the video is our Venmo if you want to do that, or that's our Cash App if you want to do Venmo, PayPal. Let us know. I can give you that information. It's been awesome. Another way to do it is super thanks on here. I have been thinking about restarting up our Twitch. I don't know what I'd put on Twitch, but if you guys have Amazon Prime and you haven't already subscribed to or followed someone on Twitch, you can subscribe for free with Amazon Prime. I think you can still do that if that's something you guys might be interested in supporting the channel. That would be awesome as well. Other way to do it, a huge way to do it, it's annoying, but clicking on ads, that definitely helps. You can always go to FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, use the promo code NFLVIP till Thursday. On the year pass, go from $199 to $99 using NFLVIP, get $100 off, or you can check us out for $24.99 a month on the website. So, big things happening. Already starting into the matchup tool. If you go to FantasyTeamAdvisors.com and you go to NFL and you go to our Bacon Station, that is going to be our matchup tool, which we're going to have a video on about that. We're already building out some stuff for the cheat sheet. We're already building out some stuff for the showdowns and stuff like that. I had a couple of people reach out about other stats and things you would like to see on the website. Ownership percentages is a big one with baseball. We are trying to do that. Again, just realize to build something like Roto Grinders, to build something like the other big websites like the Algorithm, the Optimizer, is like a minimum of $5,000, and that's the basic one. And then you have to pay, like, depending on where you get your stats from, like, it's like $500 a month to upkeep live stats and stuff like that. So while I would love to be able to do that, right now I'm a solo operation. It's really hard to afford something like that. So maybe if we grow bigger, I can do that. But as of now, I'm giving as best as I can. The support that you guys have given has been awesome. So that being said, we are going to have another giveaway. So as you know, anytime if you like these videos, or a subscriber and leave a comment so the comment picker can pick you up, anytime a video gets at least 50 likes, someone will win a free week of DFS. 100 likes, someone will win a month. 125 likes, someone will win a year. And 150 likes, someone will win a lifetime pass. So we had a pretty big video yesterday, and we're very excited for it. Again, the likes are by the time the main lineup, main slate locks. So anytime we have at least those numbers by the time the main slate locks, that's when we'll give it away. So that is why I tell you to like the videos and hit the bell notification so you guys can like it and get your comment in there early on in the day to get you guys into the running. Just looking at this, lineups locked for the main slate, and we were at 117 likes, so just under the 125 likes. So we are going to have a giveaway here. So we're going to randomly see who wins. Now, you can win multiple times. We have had multiple people win. So let's check out who the winner is from yesterday's video. And you can win today. You can win tomorrow. You can win the next day. So let's check out who the winner is from yesterday's video. Mateo Velasquez. I like this look with you in the upper left-hand corner. Thank you. I think I got the video. I think I got the camera working. It's no longer like laggy. It was before this. So I messed with the settings. So I hope that works. But thank you, Mateo. Congratulations on winning. 2 ways to get a hold of us. Email us, dfshelp1@gmail.com. That's dfshelp, the number 1@gmail.com, with a username and email you would like to use on the website. Or you can hit us up on Twitter /X @advisors_team with the same information. And we'll get you on the site if you don't already have a username on there. So that being said, like we said, we have 14 games on the day that we can play. This game right here, the Twins at the Guardians, we cannot play. It's a showdown lineup. If you're playing it, I'm not going to be playing it. We're not going to break it down. We're going to break down the early slate and then the main slate for the day. So that's kind of just what we've got going on. We're getting into the dog days where we know that the playoff races are here. We talked about it in yesterday's video. You're going to see some players that maybe you've never seen before. The low-owned players, the low-priced players that you can look at. So we're going to break it down. If you've never been here before, we go through every single game on the slate. We look at the pitching, and we look at the bats that we like on the slate as well. So with the ownership projections and stuff like that, we will get finalized ownership projections for the players, hopefully, if I can pull the data out, about an hour or 2 hours before lineup lock. And at the end of this video, we've simulated 2,000 times for this slate. We're going to go over the top 15 bats and pitching for the slate through 2,000 simulations. And then towards the end, about an hour, 2 hours before lineups lock for the main slate is when we simulate 10,000 times and we finalize our top plays over there on the website. And that is a good way to see, with the top plays, you can kind of see who is expected to be higher owned. We're trying to pull that ownership data. So if anyone here has like an ownership data sheet, or if you have like a subscription to like Roto Grinders or anyone that has the ownership, and you would allow me to get the ownership off of that, that would be awesome. Obviously, you don't have to, but if that's something you wanted to maybe get in exchange for a subscription on our website, hit us up. Either email dfshelp1@gmail.com or Twitter, and we'll go from there. So let's get into the first game on the early slate. So you've got Brandon Woodruff versus to be announced right now. This is kind of the way the Pirates are going to go. I think we're going to be wondering who's going to be the pitcher for the Pirates moving forward for a little bit. According to this, it's Andre Jackson. I can't guarantee that. He last pitched on Wednesday, so it should be his turn in the rotation. His last game went 5.2 innings, 1 earned run against Kansas City, 26.4 fantasy points at 5,400. Perfect. I mean, those numbers are great. Now he's dropped down to 5,000 because he is facing a better team in Milwaukee. Splits-wise, he's faced them one time this year, wasn't a start, 3 innings, no earned runs, 3K. So not too bad there at his price. Now we need at least 5 innings out of him, obviously. He's pitching at home now, where he's only started 2 games and his ERA is 3.86. So all of these numbers, the ERA, the fantasy points per game, are not indicative of him starting. So at 5,000, I will take, exposure to him because he's going up against Milwaukee, but at 5,000, you can really afford anybody. But on the flip side of that, Brandon Woodruff, I think he's going to be probably the highest owned pitcher on this early slate. Coming off some good games here, not a good game, and then some good games there. Faced Pittsburgh last on August 6th, 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 9 Ks at 9,300. He's only 500 more. I like that. If he can get us 22.9 or more, perfect for his price. And he's under 10,000, which is nice. That's the only time he's faced Pittsburgh this year. Again, he was hurt for most of the year. He then came back. He has 7 starts under his belt since coming back and 2.7 ERA, which is fantastic here. So Brandon Woodruff is the number 1 pitcher that I would look at on this early slate. He's the highest priced pitcher, but I think you could be in store for a pretty good game here. So what we'll do is we'll look at the bats if you're not using either pitcher. So on the flip side, if you're not using Jackson at his price, Christian Yelich, William Contreras, those are the 2 main ones that if I'm having Milwaukee bats, those are the ones I'm looking at. Just depending, you want lower owned guys. Willie Adames is probably going to be a little bit lower owned. We don't have the numbers obviously yet. Carlos Santana is going to be lower owned. Canna is going to be lower owned. Caratini could be lower owned depending if he's even in the game. Those would be the ones that I focus on with Milwaukee. If for whatever reason you're not going with Woodruff and you want to go Pirates bats, obviously Brian Hayes I would look at. Brian Reynolds, Jack Sawinski, those 3, McCutchen, those 4 are going to be probably the highest owned on the slate. But if you want to find lower owned guys, again, like I said in yesterday's video, with teams that are already out of the playoffs, you're going to be seeing some players you don't know the names of, the lower owned guys, the lower priced guys, because they're just kind of auditioning for next year. So in that sense, Alfonso Rivas, you could look at a little bit. Vinny Capra a little bit, Jason DeLay, really just depends on who's going to be out there. But I'm more focused on probably just avoiding the Pittsburgh Pirates bats and looking at the Brewers bats. So I do like Brewers bats a little bit, and I do like Brandon Woodruff in this early slate of games here. Next one, the Mariners at the Reds. You got Bryce Miller versus Connor Phillips. So we can look at Bryce Miller here at 8,100. Game logs, not the best. I mean, his price is still up there, and you can see we used him against Oakland his last start. I'm going to let you know right now. Didn't work for us. 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 5 Ks, only 13.3 fantasy points at 9,100. Not going to get it done. Then you can kind of see some of the other games that he's had. Splits-wise, he has not faced Cincy this year. And now it's in Cincinnati, which is Great American Small Park. The ball flies out of there. We know that if you've been here with us before. Pitching on the road in 8 starts, 4.4 ERA. His worst ERA on the road. He has less strikeouts. He has less walks, a little bit less home runs, but the ball flies out of here. So I don't know if I'm going to be using Miller in this early slate. Probably avoiding that. And then you got Phillips. Yeah. Nothing. Getting called up. Did he get called up? So he got called up because Brandon Williamson went on COVID-19 list, which I didn't even know was still a list. And it's the 4th player that has had that. But yeah, so Connor Phillips coming in at 6,000 against Seattle is kind of dangerous. But again, if you've been with us before, you kind of know that if I'm looking at pitchers, I kind of like pitchers that have never faced a lineup before. Now, we need at least 5 innings out of him. We know that. We need probably at least 5, give or take, strikeouts out of him. But at 6,000, that would be pretty much what we need there. Can we get it? I don't know. But I will have exposure to him. Again, with a 4-game slate, pretty much anyone's on the table because you're only playing tournament lineups when it's a 4-game slate. So when we think about that, you got to find the ownership percentage is going to be a little bit lower. Connor Phillips is going to be lower. Jackson's going to be lower. That's kind of what I'm looking at. So in that game, I don't mind that. But what if you don't use either pitcher in this instance? The bats. What bats are you going to use for the Mariners? Right off the top, I'm thinking J.P. Crawford. He's in that lineup. He's getting those RBIs. He's getting those chances. I really like J.P. Crawford in this lineup here. The higher owned ones, Julio, Hernandez, Suarez, they're all going to be very high priced. They're all going to be very highly owned. So those are cash options. If you want to dump it down just a little bit for the salary relief, Cal Raleigh would be one. Mike Ford, if he's in there, would be one in this ballpark. Don't sleep on Mike Ford if he's in that lineup. He's really boomer bust, but when he booms, it's a massive home run out of this big boy who went to Princeton or Harvard. I can't remember where Mike Ford went. That would be one I'd look at. Dylan Moore would be a lower ownership there. Josh Rojas as well. Flip side of that, if you're not going with Miller and you want to go with the Reds bats, Elly De La Cruz, he's still high priced, which is crazy because he's still at 5,700, and his numbers, like he shot off when he first got called up. He's kind of come down. He's 241 batting average, 11 home runs. Like you can see at home, he's batting 218 compared to on the road at 260. He's got 11 total home runs, like I said. He has less RBIs at home. He has one more walk. He has just a little bit less Ks, and he's not stealing as much at home for whatever reason. He is very high priced at 5,700. I don't mind him, but again, he's very high priced for what he's been doing at home. Then we break it down to what other bats could be in here. Marte, I don't mind Marte at all. He's going to be a cheap option for you. Martini's going to be an option there. It'll depend on who's in that lineup because they're still in the playoff mix. They're trying to play their best ball. Obviously, Joey Votto's on the IL. Harrison Bader's in, usually leading off, but he is better against lefties than righties. So just depends. If you want to, go lower on the ownership, maybe just avoid Elly at his price and go like a Will Benson or a Spencer Steer. Hunter Renfroe would be another one. Just depends. Stuart Fairchild is a cheap option. Jake Fraley's back off the IL. So those are all options that I think I would pivot off of De La Cruz and go lower owned and lower price guys there. Next one, Boston Red Sox at the Tampa Bay Rays. You got Cutter Crawford versus Zach Eflin. So we look at Crawford here. Second lowest price at $5,700. 2.2 innings against Houston. We stacked Houston against him last time. It worked out for us. 2.2 innings, 6 earned runs, 1K. Obviously, that's an outlier compared to what he's done lately. Against Tampa Bay, he's faced him twice this year. Has 1 start in that. 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 3 ERA. It's just hard to take a pitcher against Tampa Bay at home because of this ballpark. And then you look, you see that, and then you see that he's actually way better on the road in the same amount of starts than he is at home. I think Crawford would be lower owned here, specifically at this. You don't have a ton of options here. If Eflin's 8,900, Crawford's 5,700. You can kind of see the difference there. It's a tournament, so I think I'd kind of pivot more towards Crawford, and I'd feel okay with that. So looking at that, and then you got Eflin. We know Eflin's been high priced pretty much all year. You can see he's down because it's a lower. He's got 3 straight games that are really good. Cleveland, which should have been a good start for him, didn't do much. He's been pretty good this year. Now, facing Boston, he hasn't faced them this year. Pitching at home, got a better ERA at home, 3.05. So you could look at that. If you want to focus on the bats that might kind of maybe have good success against Eflin, but Eflin's been really good this year. So if we're not pitching Eflin and we're going with the Red Sox bats, obviously Devers is going to be at the top. Tristan Casas would be another one. Those two I really like. Yoshida I would look at a lefty. Verdugo, I would look at Verdugo. And then those are probably going to be the highest priced or highest owned players here. Then you can get into the weeds here a little bit. Find the value plays for Boston. So depending on who's in the lineup, Urias, I don't mind Luis Urias here. Reese McGuire would be a cheap option. I don't know if he'll be in that lineup though. Connor Wong usually has that hammered down, so we can kind of see. Again, they're not all the way out of it yet, but they're pretty much out of it. So you are seeing these players you might not expect. Emmanuel Valdez might be in there, but with Trevor Story being in there, with Urias being there, like you just don't know who's going to be in this lineup. Those would be the ones that I'd focus on. So the big bats are going to be obviously Devers, Casas, Yoshida, Verdugo. They, as you can see, they're hitting the ball very well. And then if you want to go lower owned, you got to find those guys that are going to be in the lineup. Ref Snyder's probably not going to be in there since it's not against the lefty. Urias would be a cheap option if he's in there, what I'd look at. Tampa Bay bats against Cutter Crawford if you're not going with Crawford. Yandy Diaz, Arozarena, Luke Raley, Brandon Lau. Those are all going to be the higher owned ones. I would go down a little bit. I would look at Paredes. Brujan would be a little option there. Jose Siri, I don't mind. Harold Ramirez, I kind of like. And Josh Lowe, I kind of like for Tampa Bay as well in this matchup. Next one, we've got the Dodgers at the Marlins. Is this on the main slate? Or no, this is on the early slate. So you've got Kershaw versus Jesus Luzardo. Battle of the lefties here. Don't really face each other a ton. You can see Kershaw, he's been consistent. So look at Kershaw here. His last game log, 5 innings. So that's the problem, though. He's only going 5. He's kind of maxed out at 5. And at 9,500, if he's not dominating this lineup, I don't know if it pays his price off. 5 innings against Arizona, 1 earned run, 5 Ks, which is great. At 10,200, he got less than 2 times value at 19.7. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's hard to like at his price. The fact that Miami, they do hit lefties kind of pretty well this season. He's pitching on the road, which he does have a worse ERA on the road. They're traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast, so everything moves over. They didn't do well against Atlanta. Now they go on the road. Julio Urias is just a piece of human garbage with domestic violence, his second domestic violence. So he's out of baseball. I probably guarantee he's out of baseball. Whether or not that weighs on their mind, I don't know. But again, Kershaw at 9,500, I don't know if I want to pay that price. And then you got Luzardo here, who's coming off a great game his last 2 games. Against Tampa Bay, 6 innings, no earned runs, 8 Ks. Obviously, that's a good start for him. Having seen this, he has not faced the Dodgers this year. He's pitching at home where he is better at home. I think Luzardo being 900 less would be a tournament option for me because, again, Dodgers are obviously a really good hitting team. They just didn't win this series this past weekend. So looking at that, I could see you going Luzardo to save a little bit of money. Now, if you don't want to go with either bat or either pitchers and you want to look at the bats in this one, we can definitely break down the bats that I'd feel most confident about for both sides. So, again, they're both lefty pitchers. So, obviously, Mookie Betts hits lefties very well. He's leading for MVP. He's been on fire lately. I would look at Mookie Betts. Max Muncy, even against the lefty, I don't care about that. I like Max Muncy. Freddie Freeman's another one. Lefty, righty, does not matter. Then you get to Will Smith. Will Smith hits lefties very well. When he's on, he's on. He can hit home runs just like the rest of them. Will Smith would be another option. Another righty bat that might go a little bit lower owned on this early slate would be Ahmed Rosario. Because we don't really get to see the Dodgers, for the most part, the Dodgers really don't play these early games. They're usually the late games or the main slate or the 9 p.m. or 10, whatever time zone you're in. We usually don't get to see these bats this early. So it's kind of exciting for some teams. Other one, Kike Hernandez. It might be in there against a lefty. We could definitely see Kike Hernandez going there. Miguel Rojas would be a very cheap option. I don't mind him. Colton Wong, I'm okay with. Chris Taylor might be another one that is a very low-owned bat against a lefty. So we go on the flip side. What if you're not using Kershaw? Jake Berger, I don't mind. Jorge Soler absolutely dominates lefties. Let's see if he's still hurt. He's still day-to-day. He's not played in September, so I don't know if he's going to be in there. I've never noticed that his eye is way over here. How's he hitting balls? Nope, not going to touch it. I don't know how he hits balls when he can't see them, but I guess he's got 3D vision. Anyway, that threw me for a loop. He hasn't hit. He hasn't played. If he's in, he's a fantastic option. I don't know if he's going to be in, though. I need to pause first. Okay, I'm back. I'm good now. Okay, I'm good. Soler, if he's in there, I don't mind him. He dominates lefties. He hasn't been in there. Jesus Sanchez, I would look at. Josh Bell has been on fire. He's a switch hitter. I would look at him. If we're looking at catchers, Jacob Stallings. I don't mind Jacob Stallings. He's probably pretty cheap. Stallings is $2,300. I don't mind that. He's not going to do much. But again, with 4 games that we can play here, it's a tournament for me. So he would be an option for me. It would be between Nick Fortes and Stallings, depending on who's in that lineup. Garrett Hampson against lefty, I don't mind. John Birdie would be another one I don't mind for a cheaper option. So from Jake Berger basically down to Bell are going to be the higher-owned guys, but they hit really well. And then if you want to find those lower-owned people, you could look down here. Like Yuli Gurriel would probably be lower-owned as well on this slate. Then that brings us to the main slate right here. We're looking at the main slate real quick. So let's take a look. Mets at the Nationals this year. We got Jose Quintana versus Patrick Corbin. We've got Battle of the Lefties here. So, looking at this, who do we like? Hint, not pretty much not either, but we'll dig into the numbers. So, Quintana on the road against Washington. He's not faced them this year. He's only started 8 total games this year. On the road, he has been considerably worse. I might be avoiding him at 7,300. Game logs, he had a really good game here against Texas, not against Atlanta. Good game against St. Louis, Atlanta, Baltimore. So his numbers have been good lately at these prices, but now he's up to 7,300, which we need at least 14.6 out of him. So let's round that up to at least 15 fantasy points out of him. So he can't be walking people, and he's been walking. I might have exposure to him, but I think it's probably going to be lower exposure than other pitchers that I'd have today. And then you got Patrick Corbin way down here at the bottom. You've got him, 2.7 against Toronto. It's obviously that you're kind of thinking about that. Then against the Yankees, he did pretty good. He had a good game against Boston. He's been very up and down this season. I think that's pretty much his pretty much tenure with Washington since he's signed with them. He's already faced the Mets twice this year. 11.2 innings, 6 earned runs, 14 hits allowed, 1 walk, only 3 Ks. He's averaging 9.3 fantasy points, which is not enough. I'm probably looking at both sides of offense here. I really don't want anything to do with the pitching in this one. I'd rather take both sides and stack both sides. So let's take a look at the bats that we like. So Pete Alonso against Patrick Corbin, I'm absolutely in love with. Against the lefty, he's already hit 40 home runs this year. I'm not going to say book it for a home run, but could be close. I would look at him. Lindor's a switch hitter that I absolutely love there. Ronnie Mauricio, I would look at Mauricio. I would look at Francisco Alvarez here. DJ Stewart is on another planet right now. Even against the lefty, I don't mind him. Jonathan Arose, whatever. I don't mind him either. Those would be cheaper options there. On the Washington side, obviously we know Washington's out. Both of these teams are out of the playoffs. You're going to see some names you've never seen before. So bats that I do feel confident about would be Joey Meneses, Lane Thomas. Love me some Lane Thomas against Quintana. Keibert Ruiz, CJ Abrams. Those are the ones that I'm confident about that I can talk about. The ones that we don't see much, maybe they're in, maybe they're not, we don't know. Michael Chavis against a lefty, I'm okay with. He was with the Red Sox for a while, kind of been moved around a little bit. Cheaper option, I would look at him. I would look at Carter Kieboom as well. So probably avoiding both of these pitchers, probably looking at those two offenses, and those are the bats that I would like in those two offenses. We got the Tigers at the Yankees. So we've got Garrett Cole versus to be announced. We just saw this matchup last week. The Yankees should have swept the Tigers. They did not. They lost the last game of that series, but then they went in and they swept the Astros. The youth movement is back with New York. So what are we going to get out of this youth movement? Let's take a look at the pitching. So I'm curious if DraftKings has anybody for Detroit yet. Maybe Alex Faedo. So he will. So Faedo will start here. And it's less than a week removed from the Tigers saying he would be used as a multi-inning relief pitcher. So game logs, he did not face the Yankees in the he didn't face the Yankees in the last series. Now they go to New York. Splits wise, he hasn't faced them this year. On the road at 287 with only 3 starts. Against a righty with this Yankees lineup, I don't want anything. The way they're hitting right now, the way they went into Houston and just did well. They did well last week. Now they're kind of on a run. Really like the Yankees here. I'm not looking at Faedo here. And then we're looking at the Cy Young leading candidate as of right now in Garrett Cole. Just faced this team his last start. Went 6 innings there, 2 earned runs. There were 2 home runs, 7 strikeouts, 23.9 fantasy points. Just above what we needed there. I would love to see more. I'm thinking we could see more of a 39, not going to say 39.5, but I could see 30-plus fantasy points out of him on DraftKings. He's faced them once this year. And now we've got that. Now a big bat of Riley Green is on the IL for them. So that's a big lefty bat in this Yankee Stadium that he doesn't have to contend with. Home games, 3.34 ERA. So he has been better on the road, but I absolutely love Garrett Cole. It's the reason he's the picture of the video in the article for today. Again, speaking of the article, so we go through everything in these videos. We go through all the pitching, all of the bats. If you want to see the handful of pitchers we like, and then like 3 to 5 batters at each position, click the link down below. That is today's article. That is another way to help the channel out, by going to the website, me being able to see the views that you guys enjoy, that I can see that you're looking at the article. So those are a little bit more in-depth analysis, or in my mind of these are the batters I like a little bit. So we go through everything, but if you need a little bit more help, you can always go to the website. You can always sign up for FTA Plus. Helps me out, helps my little child out, helps my wife, helps everybody. So, that being said, I absolutely love Garrett Cole. He's my number 1 pitcher. He's $12,000. He is expensive. He is $500 more than he was last time against Detroit. So he is expensive, but I'm okay with paying up for him. He's just been pitching very well. Now, if he craps the bed today, I will come back tomorrow and I will beg for your forgiveness. But I just absolutely love when the Cole train comes through. And then the Yankees bats. I mean, Jason Dominguez. So the last time we talked about Jason Dominguez was Friday's video. He was $2,000. Haven't looked at his price yet. I'm guessing the way he had against Houston, I would say he's probably looking at, I would say he's over 4,000. 3,000. He's still, I think he's underpriced. Absolutely on Jason Dominguez. Austin Wells. Let's see if they brought Austin Wells up. 2,500. They haven't brought him up yet. That's wild. So yeah, I'm looking at a Yankee stack. I don't even have to look at any Detroit bats. We don't even have to dig into the Yankees bats. I'm looking at Judge. I'm looking at Glaber. I'm looking at Jason Dominguez. I'm looking at Austin Wells, Pereira. Pretty much everyone on this Yankees lineup I would be looking at, and I think I'm going to have multiple different Yankee stacks today. So that would be what I look at. I'm not looking at any Detroit bats. If you want to go against the grain with not going with Garrett Cole, Torkelson would be one, and then it was usually Riley Green, but he's out. Maybe Jake Rogers in this stadium. But yeah, Torque is the one that comes to mind the most. Kerry Carpenter would be a second one. I think Kerry Carpenter had 2 home runs against Garrett Cole last time. Let me see. Garrett Cole pitched on 8:30. Let's see what Kerry Carpenter did. And he's 4,500, so he is expensive. 8:30. No, he did not. He didn't actually have a good game against. He had a good game. He's had good games since then. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'd look at. Kerry Carpenter, Torkelson would be the only 2 that I'd look at, but I'm all over Garrett Cole here. Next game, Cardinals at the Braves. Miles Mikolas versus to be announced. I don't want to take Mikolas against this Braves team. Let's see. Atlanta. Soroka. It might be Soroka. Game logs. Has not pitched since July 21st, though. So we'll see. Yeah, so maybe he gets called up, maybe he doesn't, but I would definitely take the Braves bats. We do not have to cover this. Mikolas, in 98 plate appearances, 304 batting average. I'm taking the Braves bats, pretty much every single player in this lineup for the Braves. So it doesn't really matter. Whatever lineup comes out for the Braves, I will have multiple different stacks of the Braves. So if there's a way to get a Garrett Cole and the Yankees bats, the cheaper bats in there as a main stack, and then a Braves secondary stack, I absolutely love that. So not looking at Mikolas. I'm really not looking at Soroka. I'd rather look at that. Braves bats. And then the Cardinals bats I'd look at would be Tyler O'Neill, Gorman, Arenado, Goldie, depending on the lineup that is out there. So I'm mainly focused on just the Braves bats in this game. And there's just other games and players that I'd rather look at in this one. Just like to be put on record that I just filmed about 20 more minutes of this video, and for whatever reason, this webcam or microphone did not pick up. The microphone didn't pick up the audio. So not happy, but we're going to keep on keeping on. Yeah, that's what we've got. So it did not cover from the Cubs down. So we're going to get this done quickly, hopefully, and get out of here. So as of now, and I'm just going to glance over what I talked about. Giants, they think it's going to be Sean Manaea. It's currently scheduled as that, but he's like the long relief. So it's probably not going to be him. It's going to be an opener, and then it's going to be him versus Kyle Hendricks. Now, Kyle Hendricks, at his price, I don't know if I'm on board with. At 8,300 against San Francisco, he needs to get at least 2 times value here. He's gotten it twice in the past month and a half. And you guys know that I just don't like Kyle Hendricks as much. He had a good game against Milwaukee, but that's basically all that we got out of him. So I'm probably avoiding both pitchers in here, whoever that pitcher is, and then we can look at the bats that we would like. So kind of looking at this, if you're not taking either, Jock Peterson, J.D. Davis, Mike Yastrzemski, I'm okay with. I would look at Paul DeYoung because he's been in this ballpark a lot, as long as he was with the Cardinals. And the flip side of that, if it is a lefty or a bulk lefty for the majority, Patrick Wisdom is a good option. We expect Patrick Wisdom to get, boom or bust. He's going to hit a home run against a lefty or he's not going to do much. He would be one. Chris Morel I'd look at. A Suzuki I'd look at. Ian Happ. Dansby Swanson I'm okay with. If you want to go a little bit lower, Jamer Candelario, I would look at Yan Gomes against a lefty. I think your number one bat you're going to pay up for the Cubs is Cody Bellinger. So in this instance, I'm avoiding whoever San Francisco's going with, avoiding Hendricks and looking at the bats. More focused on Cubs bats, but I will have exposure to San Francisco. White Sox at the Royals. I've dug into this before. Dylan Cease at his price, he's gotten lit up by the Royals this year already. He's 8,800. He has looked bad this year. He already pitched in this ballpark this year. Went 5 innings, 7 earned runs against Kansas City. I'm all over. I don't mind Brady Singer. I will avoid Dylan Cease. Really avoid any of the Chicago bats. I don't really like. There's not very many bats that I really like there. I know the Royals are, as of now, the worst team in baseball, even behind Oakland. I don't trust a lot of the pitching in this matchup outside of, I think I like Brady Singer. I don't trust Dylan Cease. I will come back tomorrow and eat crow if he dominates. On paper, he has a fantastic matchup against Kansas City, but he just faced this team in this ballpark this year and got lit up for 7 runs. So if you're not going with Singer, Eloy, Andrew Vaughn, Colas, Benintendi maybe a little bit, but that's basically it. Kind of like Singer, and I kind of like the Royals bats. So Edward Olivares just had not a leadoff home run, but a home run in the first inning on Monday. So if he's at the top of the list, at the top of the lineup, I like him. MJ Melendez, I like Maikel Garcia. I like Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez. And if you want to get a little bit lower, Nelson Velasquez, Kyle Isbell, Michael Massey, maybe Drew Waters would be cheaper options there. So I'm avoiding Cease. I'll have a little bit of Singer, and I'll have some of the Royals bats over the White Sox bats. Astros at the Rangers, Framber Valdez versus to be announced. It looks like it's going to be Nate Eovaldi, but he has not pitched since July with a forearm issue. Now he comes in here against this team. I want nothing to do with either of these pitchers. Then you've got Framber Valdez at 10,100. He's had some good games, and then he's got lit up. And now he's going up against one of the best teams in baseball this year. He's faced them twice this year. 9.2 innings, 7 earned runs, 2 home runs, only 8 Ks. I want nothing to do with that. I think I'll have exposure to both offenses here. I think it's going to be kind of self-explanatory who to use, but we'll dig in just a little bit. If you guys do have questions, I can give you those answers. So, obviously, if it is Eovaldi, I don't know how long he's going to be into the game. I think I don't want much to do with him at all. Alvarez, if he's in there, I love Jordan here. I like Michael Brantley. I like Kyle Tucker. Those are the main big guys. Yanner Diaz, I don't know if he'll start here, but I do like him if he does start. Altuve, obviously. If you want to get a little bit cheaper for these, John Singleton would be a cheap tournament option for you. McCormick, Kessinger, Jake Myers, and Dubon. Flip side of that, even if it's against a lefty, Corey Seager hits lefties very well. I would look at Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia. I love Mitch Garver against a lefty. Marcus Semien against a lefty. If you want to get a little bit down lower, Taveras, Ezekiel Duran, Jonah Heim, Robbie Grossman is a switch hitter. So these are lineups that I will have multiple exposures to by getting different players in these stacks, both sides. I like Texas a little bit more, but I will have exposure to the Astros as well, and I don't want anything to do with either of these pitchers. Orioles at the Angels, Dean Kramer versus Reed Detmers. I will take Dean Kramer here. I don't trust Reed Detmers against the Orioles bats. Dean Kramer against the Angels I'm okay with. At his price, Dean Kramer is 88,600. I do like him better than Hendricks. I do like him better than Cease. I like him a little bit better than Lorenzen. And then I will take the Orioles bats over the Angels bats, but we'll look at both of these offenses real quick. Angels bats are Shohei Ohtani, Brandon Drury, Grichuk maybe a little bit, Moustakas, Rengifo, but not a ton. I'd rather have the Orioles bats. Mountcastle and Adley Rutschman would be my top 2. Ryan O'Hearn, if he's in there, I do like him. Gunnar Henderson, I don't mind. Against a lefty, James McCann, if he's in there. Santander, I'm okay with. Mateo, Frazier, those are all cheaper. Ramon Urias would be cheaper options for Baltimore. So I'm more on the Baltimore train, Dean Kramer, and then the Baltimore bats. I don't want anything to do with Reed Detmers, and outside of like Ohtani, I don't feel very confident against Angels bats here. Rockies at the Diamondbacks, I want nothing to do with either of these pitchers, and we're going to look at to why. Both of these pitchers have faced each other, I believe. Let's see. Kyle Freeland down here, he's faced Arizona this year. 2 games, 8 earned runs. I want nothing to do with him. And then Brandon Pfaadt. He has not faced Colorado this year, but his home ERA is 7.3. So I will be stacking both sides on this offense. So as you know, which I love, I think you guys know I love. Whenever we have Arizona going up against the lefty, Evan Longoria, Tommy Pham, Gurriel Jr., and Christian Walker are my number ones righty bats against lefties. Then you put in Ketel Marte. You want to get cheaper options. Pavin Smith, Perdomo, Gabriel Moreno. Those would be bats I like. So I really like Gabriel Moreno as a cheap catching option today. Flip side of that, the bats, it really depends on which team Colorado throws out there. Ryan McMahon, Nolan Jones, Brendan Rodgers, Charlie Blackmon are the top ones for Colorado. And then maybe a Hunter Goodman would be a cheap option. Sean Bouchard, Tovar. Just really depends on the lineup that comes out for Colorado. So I am mainly focusing on Arizona righties against Freeland, but I will have some Colorado bats against Brandon Pfaadt just because he's got a 7.3 ERA at home. You got to have exposure to both sides. I don't know how you get away with not having at least a couple of these bats in the optimal lineup today. Blue Jays at the Athletics, you got Chris Bassett versus Ken Waldichuk. So Bassett facing his old team. He has gotten hit by them this year, but that was in Toronto. Now he goes back to Oakland, which we know is a pitcher's park. 9,700 is kind of expensive. He's faced them once this year, 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. I'll have some exposure to Bassett, but I think it's more tournaments, and his price is just very high up there. I'd rather have Toronto bats. And then Ken Waldichuk was supposed to pitch on Monday, but he did not. So my same analysis from Monday's video goes into this video. Looking at Toronto righties against Ken Waldichuk, a lefty. So Vlad, George Springer. I do like Brandon Belt, who is a lefty. I'll take him. Alejandro Kirk, I'll look at there. George Springer. Those are the bats that I'd like. And then you could probably find some lower-owned guys. Just really depends on the lineup that comes out here. I guess I don't mind Kevin Kiermaier. It is a lefty-on-lefty, but I will have some exposure to him. So if you're not going with Bassett and you want to go with the A's, I think Noda, Rooker, Gelof, Brown, Langoliers are going to be the top ones. And then if you want cheaper options, Aledmus Diaz, Tony Kemp, Esteury Ruiz. But those last two mainly focused if they get on base. That's a big if, getting stolen bases instead of actual hits for fantasy points. So that's what I would look at there. I'm more focused on Toronto bats over everything. I'll have a little bit of exposure to Chris Bassett because it is in Oakland, but I'd rather just take the Toronto bats. Then the final game on the slate we've got here, Michael Lorenzen versus Pedro Avila. Lorenzen has not really looked the same since throwing the no-hitter, throwing 120 plus pitches. I might take Lorenzen in tournaments, but I think I'd rather focus on both of these offenses rather than the pitching. So the offenses that I'd look at are the bats. I think it's pretty self-explanatory who you would take for both sides, but we'll break it down a little bit. So Pedro Avila is a righty. This is a pitcher's park. I don't think that matters. Do not be surprised if we see a Schwarber out of Kyle Schwarber to lead off the game. I love Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Brandon Marsh. Those are going to be the top 3. I think Trey Turner's been absolutely on fire. Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos. I think those are going to be the higher-owned guys because those are the guys everyone knows on this Phillies team. If you want to dig in a little bit more, a Bryson Stott I don't mind if he's in there. A Garrett Stubbs I don't mind. Edmundo Sosa I don't mind him. Christian Pache if he's even in there. Pache at 2,200. Problem is, he's not starting games. He's getting into games. So it just depends if Pache is in there. He'd be a cheap option at 2,200. But I don't know if he will be in there. And then San Diego bats, Soto, Tatis, Machado. I think those are going to be the 3 main guys. If you want to pay down a little bit or go lower-owned guys, Trent Grisham, Garrett Cooper, Ha-Sung Kim, Gary Sanchez, Ben Gamel. Those would be the lower-priced guys, lower-owned guys if you don't want to pay up. So I think when you're building your lineups and you're stacking, it's good to have those big named main stacks, but I think you want secondary stacks. You want those lower owned guys, because if one goes off, the other one might not. But if your main one doesn't go off, but the team goes off because you're confident in that, get those lower owned guys. They could be the difference maker between $5, $500,000, depending on obviously the tournaments you play. So that is the breakdown of all of the pitchers and all of the batters on the slate. We did talk about it. We are going to go over the top 15 bats and pitchers after simulating 2,000 times that you can only find at FantasyTeamAdvisors.com. So we'll go over the bats first. Top 15 bats. We got Corbin Carroll, Lindor, Eugenio Suarez, J.P. Crawford, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Pete Alonso, Christian Walker, Tommy Pham, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Jeff McNeil, Joey Meneses, Gabriel Moreno, Julio Rodriguez, and Bobby Witt Jr. So, like I spoke, out of the top 15, 5 of those bats are Arizona, and 3 of them are the big ones that I said against a lefty. So, through 2000, it's really loving the Arizona Diamondbacks as one of the top stacks against Kyle Freeland on this slate. And then if we want to look at the pitchers real quick, it's got Garrett Cole, number 1, Zach Eflin, Chris Bassett, Brady Singer, Bryce Miller, Jesus Luzardo, Pedro Avila, Cutter Crawford, Dean Kramer, Clayton Kershaw, Michael Lorenzen, and Reed Detmers. Now, these are some that I don't agree with, and I will be away from them, such as I won't really have exposure to Pedro Avila. I won't have exposure to Kershaw. I won't have exposure to Lorenzen, Ken Waldichuk, or Reed Detmers. So these will change. We've already simulated 2,000 times, and we will have simulated 10,000 times about an hour to an hour and a half before the main slate lock. So that's what we've got today, guys. If you found it helpful, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have not, and we will be back tomorrow with another video and hopefully some more bangers for you. Good luck on this slate, and as always, let's bring home some bacon. Peace!